welcome back. We're here today to talk about how AI is changing the rules on reputation management and the importance of your online ratings and reviews for the elective healthcare industry. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ryan Miller. I'm the founder and the CEO of Etna Interactive. And over the last 20 years, I've delivered more than 50 podium presentations on online reputation related topics at major medical meetings. And in just the last year, the rules have all changed. Today, we're going to talk about how AI search is changing the value and the mechanics of online ratings and reviews. So let's just stop for a second and have a moment of reflection. Have you ever Googled a restaurant and never clicked, visited, or ordered from the restaurant because you learned everything that you needed to know from the ratings or the snippets in a quick search result? So now imagine for your patients. Today, they don't even need to search. They can simply ask an emerging AI search engine, an answer engine, to recommend, say, the top facelift surgeons near them. And they're not going to get 10 blue links or reviews for a handful of businesses. Generally, today, they're going to get a recommendation for 3 practices in the market, a short list, and you want to be on it. So let's talk how that's going to happen and what's changing in online reputation. We all know the statistics. We know the data. The majority of patients have long consulted online ratings and reviews to influence their aesthetic provider choices. 94% of patients, if you trust the data, are turning to reviews. And as many as 7 in 10, it's their first place that they go to understand where they're going to choose to get their care. In the old way of thinking, patients would search, often your name or your brand name plus the word reviews. They would click, evaluate a number of practices, and then decide. In the new world order, they're simply going to ask a question of an answer engine. That answer engine is going to decide which ratings and reviews they can trust, synthesize an answer, and issue a series of recommendations. Ultimately, this is not a distant future thing that's going to be happening. This is something that's happening right now. McKinsey has studied it, and as many as 50% of Google queries already include a Google AI overview at the top of the page that's summarizing results and guiding patients towards a select short list of practices. So here's 7 things that you need to know as a practice lead, a practice marketer, a clinic owner that should shape the way that you think about the role and the importance of online reputation today. The first principle is just recognizing that online reputation has a major impact on your visibility in the next generation of AI search engines. All of them rely heavily on consumer-driven review data, specifically review data in enough volume that builds a consensus in their ability to understand what businesses in the market are all about and how they are reputed by patients. It's deeply influential. And the second principle is to understand how practices are winning at the review game today. It's the same way they've been winning at it for years, which is automation. We've studied it, and specifically SMS, text message requests, when followed up with email reminders if needed, are going to get you the greatest possible response, on average 3 times more than any other method. So if you're still asking patients in voice or handing them a printed card, you're likely sabotaging the success of your visibility, not just in the rating and review sites, but in the next generation of answer engine search. There's another common practice that undermines practice success in reputation management, and that's the need or desire to hand select which patients you are going to ask for their review. Ultimately, what we found is that this is the kiss of death, and the solution is simple. Your patients in general are very satisfied with you and the experience with your clinic. You need to ask everyone. Consistency here is absolutely critical because what we know is that the humans, the traditional rating and review sites, and the next generation of answer engine search engines all trust recent reviews more than historic ones. So let's talk about what else is changing in the space. Context and semantics are increasingly important. Answer engines need language more than they need ratings to build a consensus for what a brand stands for and how consumers experience that brand. So we need to look critically at the requests that are sent in that SMS message or the email follow-up and ensure that there are prompts to guide patients to leave rich, detailed reviews mentioning the procedures that they received, their experience with you and your staff, their outcomes, and ultimately whether or not they would recommend the practice, specifically to guide answer engines to understand the human reputation of your practice. Now, fifth principle here, and we're getting close to number seven, is to simply behave, to play by the rules. One of the things I truly appreciate about working as a medical marketer for more than a quarter of a century is playing in a space where everyone is incentivized to protect their medical license to play by the rules. Now, FTC guidelines, as well as state medical licensing board guidelines and the guidelines set by the medical societies that you or your providers belong to, all say the same thing. Don't lie and don't mislead patients. Review gating is a practice that involves basically pre-identifying patients who are dissatisfied, actively excluding them from your review request stream, and asking only those patients who self-identify as already being very satisfied and guiding them to leave reviews. Review gating is an FTC violation, and it is a violation of the terms of service for almost every major rating and review site, so don't do it. In addition to that, astroturfing is illegal. Astroturfing, where the grass is always greener on the other side because it's fake, involves either falsifying reviews or motivating people who are directly connected with your practice to leave positive reviews without disclosing a relationship or affiliation to the practice. Don't do that either. You're going to win simply by asking all of your patients using an SMS message to share a detailed review of their experience with your practice. Sixth principle here is where things start to get a little bit more complicated, a little more difficult. And I get this asked this all the time is, should we respond to reviews? I want you to please consult your trusted legal advisors to make sure that they echo our same advice, but our recommendation is simple. You need to respond in a HIPAA compliant manner to any and all reviews, specifically to engage in the consumer conversation and to build trust in you and your practice, showing the world that you listen and that you care. On some online rating and review sites, there's evidence that participating in the conversation this way has the added benefit of increasing your visibility on the platform. Finally, I want to talk about the biggest change. As recently as a year ago, I was standing at the podium recommending a very specific pathway to identify which rating and review sites you should prioritize for your clinics. We have an entirely new outlook on this today based on research that we've done over the last 14 months. Specifically, we studied hundreds of plastic surgery practices as a particular cohort for our data analysis and examined whether and where reviews and ratings on specific websites influence their appearance on sites like Google AI Overview, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. And our findings were really interesting. I'm going to share them with you right now. Google remains the 800-pound gorilla. And because today, as much as 90% of your opportunity to earn your way in front of the consumer is still traditional organic search, Google remains at the top of the list. It's also worth noting that the reviews that appear on your Google business profile are deeply influential, unsurprising, in Google's own AI experiences like AI Overview, Google AI Mode, and Google Gemini. But we asked the question for ChatGPT, number two in the race to dominance for answer engine search, what seems to be the most influential body of reviews there? We were surprised to learn that almost none of the traditional rating and review sites like Vitals, HealthGrades, RateMDs showed any correlation to influencing whether or not you would be recommended by ChatGPT. But there was one site in medical aesthetics that stood out with a strong statistically relevant correlation, not necessarily causation, and that was RealSelf. Now, when we looked at number three in line, Perplexity, well, they have a very clearly documented data relationship with Yelp. So not surprising, your appearance on Yelp has a great influence on your visibility on Perplexity. So today, our counsel to our clients and to the industry in general is to broaden your thinking about where you prioritize earning reviews to these three sites first. Next in line, if you've got some time and space left and the tooling and the ability to encourage reviews on secondary sites, search your name or your brand name plus the word reviews on Google, see which rating and review sites show up, and make sure that you have a positive reputation on each one that's on Google's first page. The reality here is that AI is turning reputation directly into rankings and visibility in a way that is unprecedented in traditional organic search. It matters more now than it ever has in the past. And importantly, in the AI era, your reputation isn't a mirror. It's not a reflection of a recent patient experience in the way that we've thought about it in the past. It's a doorway. It's the doorway that, for many patients, they'll use to enter your practice, but only if you're selected by the answer engines as one of the top 3 to 5 practices in the market for any particular procedure or query. So let's summarize really quickly. I know this was a lot. What does it all mean for you? The first is you need to be ready to scale the ask. You need to have the technology in place and the discipline operationally to ensure that it's executed consistently with tools and monitoring so that you don't lose sight of the importance of this simple tactic. You need to broaden your footprint. Check the tooling that you're using that's guiding patients on where they can leave reviews. Follow guidelines for each one of those communities to encourage responses on sites like Google, RealSelf, and Yelp, while keeping an eye on the other major sites that show up on Google's first page for your name. In addition, you need to look at your tooling and your messaging to patients where you're asking for reviews and make sure that you're encouraging a contextually rich, deep review about you and your clinic. And finally, just a subtle reminder, or maybe not so subtle, stay compliant and play by the rules. Watch out for things like review gating and games that ultimately are going to get you in trouble. You don't need to cheat your way to the top when you're following the advice that we've shared in this presentation today. If you have questions, you know that we're always here for you. Visit us online at etnainteractive.com and click the contact link if we can be of any service.